were compatible more or less. It was, we're going to run all that software. And we're not done until we run all that software. And we're still not done. but we did run essentially all the software. We became known for that. And as a result of that and the sequence of events that followed, IBM introduced the computer that the standard was developed around, but it was really Compaq that caused the standard to become a standard. You know, even within the first year after we introduced our portable, when we came out with the Plus, people began to buy our software, our operating system, and run it on other people's computers because it was the only one that really ran all the software. I don't know if you know, Microsoft called us up and said, "Are you guys going into the software business? You're selling way more packages of your operating system than you're selling computers." Well, long story short, we ended up licensing our software back to Microsoft, and they sold it to our competitors, and at that point is when the real standardization began, because now everybody, Compaq and all of its competitors, by the way, except IBM, began to run all of the software the same way. And the sequence of events that followed that led to the standard. It was things like being the first to introduce the 386 ahead of IBM, demonstrated absolutely that it was a standard and it had gotten independent of IBM. So all of that came to be, and when IBM decided they were going to kill the standard, Compaq, through a sequence of events that was some of the toughest decisions we ever had to make, organized the industry, led all of the, we call it the clone army, to fight IBM, and we succeeded. We kept them from killing the standard. We actually severely damaged them. But the result of that is this industry standard, the standardization, like in automobiles that led to the boom, the long-term growth, the same thing began to happen in PCs. And so through the 90s, we saw an accelerated growth rate of the market, an accelerated advance in technology. And I'm certain that if IBM had succeeded and gotten even a partial proprietary control of the industry, that things would have moved much slower. And if they'd moved slower in the 90s, you got to ask yourself, would we have iPhones and iPads today? Would we have that kind of power in mobile electronics? I don't think so. So the most visible thing that's a result of that standard is still there and will be there, which is if you go into a computer store, any piece of software that's designed for PCs will run in every brand. That had never existed before 1982, and it continues today and will continue on as long as Microsoft can make Windows work. And they're doing a pretty good job, I think, right now with Windows 8. So I'm pretty excited about that product right now. So that's the visible side of it, but that's the tip of the iceberg. The reality is that, now we didn't do that by ourselves, by the way. Intel and Microsoft and all these other companies advanced the technology rapidly, but the key ingredient, if you will, that allowed that to come together and really reach critical mass so that it exploded through the 90s was that industry standard that Compaq really created and then defended, and we have it today as a result of that. So that's one way of looking at what Compaq did and how we affected the world. But it's really interesting, even when you get to that point and you say, well, okay, you did all that. Well, how did you do that? Well, let me see. You know, I guess it was the people. I guess if we hadn't had that team, hadn't started with a great core, with great character, great values, and then built around that with the same kinds of people. If we hadn't created an environment that empowered them to get the job done, there's no way we could have done all that. So that's the two pieces of the legacy, and I think you bring the second along with the first. You can see what we accomplished, how we affected the world today, but at the same time, it really gets back to you, the team that made it happen. Thanks for all that you did.